We bring in a friend who we've known for years and years and years. He's an author, relationship therapist, Dr. R.G. Alan Wilson.
Some expert advice on how we can all talk to them. Joining us now is relationship expert Dr. R.G. Alan Wilson. She's the author of Courageous Conversations Connect. Good morning, R.G.
Doctor, good morning. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning, Janelle. It's good to be here. Thanks for having me.
And as we mentioned, a lot of people just dealing with anxiety during all of this. What are your suggestions?
Some of the things that we need to remember is that this is temporary. This is temporary inconvenience for long-term gain. And as long as we stay healthy, Janelle, then everything else is recoverable.
Talk to your children about what's happening right now. What are the best ways to do that?
There's some do's and don'ts, right? So you want to tell them that you're going to be here. We're going to be okay. Kids want to know that they're secure and they're safe. So predictability, structure, and consistency. You also want to let them know you have a plan. And even if you don't have a plan, tell them that you're working on one.
And good morning. What is this? This is May 5th, 2020. This is the 8th week of quarantine, and this is the Courageous Conversations Connect space where we're having our quarantine talks. Yep, I am Dr. RG, and we are here as a crew together. So thank you for joining us. Oh my goodness. This is day 31 of quarantine talks. Can you believe it? It's been a journey, and we're still in the middle of it. So thank you for joining. And we are going to have a great talk. You all know that this is Mental Health Month, a National Mental Health Awareness Month. So all week we're going to be talking about different aspects of our mental health and well-being, and certainly in the midst of a quarantine, this is really, really important. There's a couple other things that are going on in the world. I know that they're talking about opening back up in May 8th, I believe, here in Pennsylvania or Philadelphia, and May 15th, possibly in New York, and this sort of a gradual process. So I really want to talk about that because I think that's going to increase some of our anxiety. I know it's mine as well. And we'll be talking about depression. So listen, we're going to take a quick break from our sponsors. We're going to be right back. So stay with us. And we're back. Good morning. This is Dr. RG here for our quarantine talks. Believe it or not, it is week 8 of our quarantine. It is day 31 of our quarantine talks. We're going to have a rich discussion this morning. I see Nicole Mama Stokes on. Thank you for joining. I see Donald McCrae. Thank you for joining. I see Gwinnetta. Thank you for joining. And thank you for my IG family who hangs out with us every morning, as well as my Facebook family and our YouTube family. Do me a favor, share this, share. We want to make sure that those people who cannot come on at 10 o'clock live like you can, that those persons actually are able to view this, because this conversation is for everyone. This is a courageous conversation to connect us so that when we grow through this, we'll be better on the back end than we were on the front end. And so if you can share this, this will be awesome. If you are on Facebook, at some point, I'd love for you to go over to the YouTube page. We've got some great content for you. Subscribe and then hit the notification button so that you'll be notified when there are other things that we're putting out, other pieces of content, things that are related to what we're all going through and growing through. Also, you all know I always ask this, can you give me a thumbs up and smiley faces and hearts? 1, that gives me energy, and 2, that helps with the algorithms. So definitely appreciate that. I'm going to give a little bit of a disclosure here, which is that my energy feels a little low today. It might be that I think I mistaken my vitamins yesterday. That's a possibility. So if you all can continue to give me energy flow, that would be awesome. I appreciate that. There's a couple things that I was thinking about yesterday before we go into our breathing exercises that I'm wondering if you all were thinking about too. One, that I do believe that they're going to begin to slowly open up the cities, major cities in our community. And that's a little scary for me, quite frankly, because I don't think we're ready. I think this virus is going to come back with a vengeance. Well, it never went anywhere, right? So it's just kind of waiting for us to relax our behavior, because this has always been about our behavior. And will we do the thing that is not only in our best interest, but in the best interest of other people? So, you know, as we open up, the question that I have is, will people still be prudent? Will they still make good decisions for themselves, their family, and other people? Or will they get so caught up in their cabin fever because it has been 2 months and we thought it was going to be 2 weeks, and then it turned into 4 weeks, and now it's been 2 months? And will they get so caught up in their heads about what they want that they actually will go out there and put themselves in harm's way? This is not like going into a burning building, right? You actually know that the building is burning and you can see that it's going to cause you some harm. This virus, you can't see it. The majority of the people that actually are transmitters or carriers or spreaders are people that are asymptomatic. And so you can't see them. And so that's one of my biggest fears. I actually heard Fauci, Dr. Fauci on yesterday saying that he was very, very concerned because, yes, the political pundits are talking about fire Fauci, but the truth is, I feel like he's the only person that's in the administration that really has come with good hard science and really been transparent with the people, because he is a scientist and it's his responsibility and obligation to tell us the truth. And then we get to have free will. We get to make free choices, our own choices about how we behave that ultimately will help us or will hurt us. So I'm wondering what your thoughts are. What have you been seeing out there when you're going about, hopefully with your mask and your gloves and social distancing? I know we're tired. I'm certainly tired. I certainly feel like we all have some cabin fever. I get it. Absolutely. This has been an interesting journey and we're still in the midst of it. But, you know, how many of you have ever heard that just because it's hard doesn't mean that you're not supposed to do it, right? Like, just because you're tired doesn't mean that you get to quit. We would tell our children, you know, if they entered into a sporting event or something that they maybe dance, something that they said that they wanted to do, they would, you know, say I don't want to do this anymore. And you would say, no, you don't get to quit just because it's hard. You need to double down and you need to continue this journey. You need to be determined and resilient and consistent. I said in the very beginning, consistency is extremely important, right?
Children need consistency. They need structure. They need us to be frequent with what our messaging is. And ultimately, that gives them the security and the safety. And if they don't have that, then oftentimes they don't feel comfortable. They don't feel confident. That's what we need too. And so tell me what your thoughts are. Like, are you out there seeing people going out and not social distancing? Are you out there seeing people without their masks on? The weekend was absolutely beautiful, right? In Philadelphia. I don't know where you guys, many of you were, but in Philadelphia, it was beautiful. And I was like, oh my goodness, are people going to be able to do what they've committed to? And the truth is, everybody is not able to socially distance maybe in the way that you are. Morgan and I were talking about this past weekend, that we're fortunate enough to have a nice yard that we can go into. Maybe everybody doesn't have that. So we have to be creative. We have to be innovative. We have to be prudent with the decisions that we make. And quite frankly, we're the model, right? We are the trendsetters. We're modeling good behavior for our families, for our children. And if we don't do it, we don't model for them, how are they going to get the message? So it'll be interesting. There's a couple other things that I want to bring to your attention before we go into our breathing exercise. One, there's a couple people out there that I think are doing some amazing jobs. Shout out to Dr. Ayla Stanford, who is still giving leadership, and Pastor Marshall Mitchell to the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium. She is doing an amazing job out there, continuing to test in the areas that are hard hit in Philadelphia. I'm hoping that the model will be set and that other doctors, Black doctors in other hard hit areas will take the charge and put together. She said she was on the Bloomberg Quick Talk yesterday. She's been on national TV saying that she put this together in 48 hours, basically coming together with other Black doctors and pastors in the community, including our pastor, Dr. Alan E. Waller. He's doing really well. He had church service on Sunday to put this together because of the need. There was a need that was met. Many of us are sitting home and we're safe, but we should be also thinking about what need can we actually meet. So shout out to her. Also, shout out to my good friend, Candy Manning. She is actually doing an initiative to save prom. So we're going to be posting her information for the next couple of weeks. She's actually going to be going to a location in Philadelphia and in Maryland and taking pictures of young people who are actually feeling very upset because they're missing prom. So if they've got their dress and their tux already because they were planning for it, they can sign up, come to that location, stay in their car. They will be text or called to come to the place where she will meet them once they arrive at the location, and she'll take their socially distant pictures. The people that they're in the car with can be with them because assuming that they're in the same house, everyone else will stay in their car until that photo shoot is over, and then they'll get back in their car, drive off, and the next people will come up. I thought that was an amazing idea. And this just shows you what we can do when we put our mind to it. She's actually, I think, going to be doing it for graduation. So if you all are interested, we will be posting that. You can click the link and you can sign up for your children so that they can save prom and graduation. And lastly, I want to bring to your attention our good friends, Nicole and Kenyatta Black. They are sponsoring an initiative for the essential mothers who are out there putting their lives on the line, and they're doing a giveaway. So we're going to post that too. You'll click the link. It has to be by May 9th, I believe, that you send in a 200-word essay on this essential worker who is a mother and why they should be given a gift, right? Now, I don't know if you know Nicole and Kenyatta Black, but they are the proprietors of Philadelphia Diamond Company, right? And they're based in Philadelphia, but they also have a location in Atlanta. And I believe they have a location in Chicago as well. They've been continuing to do business even during COVID-19. So my girlfriend Candy is talking about cancel prom, saving prom and saving graduation. You can save your wedding. You can save your anniversary. You can save Mother's Day by continuing to support their business, but so certainly also if you know of an essential worker who is a mom that is out there doing her best to take care of her family, sign her up, send in a quick essay on why you think she is deserving of a beautiful Mother's Day gift. Remember, they are the proprietors of the Philadelphia Diamond Company, right? So I imagine that the gift is going to be really, really good. So you need to make sure that if you know someone that's really working hard and you think that they're deserving, send in that essay. They're going to be assessing that essay by the 9th and sending out the gifts to those persons who were chosen, right? So I just wanted to say those that give you that information early on before I actually forgot. And we are going to go into our breathing exercise. So you all know what we do. I want to hear who you're breathing for. Give us the thumbs up, the smiley faces, the hearts. Please share this information. Also, tag your friends, let them know that we're on. This is our quarantine talks. This is our 8th week, and we do it every morning at 10 a.m. We get in our positions, right? Just waiting for more people to join. I see lots of people, Nicole and Tanya and Charla. I saw Gwinnetta a little bit earlier, and Donald McCrae. I don't know who's here on IG. Morgan, who's here?
Marsh Mitch Media, or who that is. Max
Pastor Marshall Mitchell.
That's Marshall.
Yeah,
Marshall.
Hey,
What's up,
Pastor
man?
Marshall.
What's going on, man?
He's working hard. He's working hard out there.
Marshall. Okay.
Media, yeah. He's not just he's a pastor, but he also has his own media company.
I'm
Yeah.
Just to click. So. All right, and we have Mama Scopes, Nicole with the K. We have Marcy here. We have
Hey, Marcy. Hi, Mama Scopes.
Pamela _ Eversley, and we have hey, Kat is on.
Yeah.
Kat's on.
Hey, Kat, my favorite neighbor.
Yeah. Allison's
Good morning.
on.
Hey, Allison.
Yeah.
Good morning. All right, we got a full house this morning.
Yeah.
Full house. Good.
Right. Full house. Yeah, we're all good.
All right, so let's get into our positions. Get our backs a little straight. Move your shoulders around so that you start feeling comfortable. Put your middle finger to your thumb. If you like that position, you can also put your hands over top of each other and sit them on your lap or to the side, right? And I'd like for you to put in the chat who you're breathing for. Of course, we breathe in oxygen. We know that the numbers are still going up. They say they're flattened out, but I am concerned that they're going to continue to escalate, especially in many of those Black and brown communities where people can't social distance, or when they're just overwhelmed and tired and they want to get out and they're not social distancing. So I'm very concerned about those persons who will come down with the virus. It would be a shame that we've done all of this to quarantine ourselves and then it starts to escalate. So we're praying for those persons who have been impacted and affected by this virus, who can't breathe for themselves. We're also breathing, quite frankly, for those essential workers. They're still out there on the front lines. They're still out there doing the work that allows us to be home. They're the pharmacists. They're the grocery store workers. They're the truck drivers and the postal workers and the gate agents and the flight attendants. They're the HR people that have to be there for the hospital, and the doctors and the nurses. Quite frankly, of course, my heart goes out to those mental health workers that we're going to be talking specifically about depression today. And so those mental health workers are still doing work on the front lines, even if they're doing telehealth. You all need to understand that this is a lot for mental health workers to absorb, and someone needs to help the mental health workers, right? They're called wounded healers. We're called wounded healers. So I'm breathing for all of those persons that are out there on the front lines that are doing this work. Those doctors, as I said before, Dr. Ayla Stanford and her crew, the COVID-19 consortium of Black doctors and medical professionals that continue every other day. I don't know where they get their stamina to be out there on the front lines testing persons who would not otherwise be tested, from those who are not employed to the police officers and firefighters and essential workers out there putting themselves on the front line. So we're breathing in for all of those persons. We're breathing oxygen in, right? We breathe in through our nose at the sound of my voice when I count to 3. And we try to hold it for 10 seconds because that helps to build capacity in our lungs. It's a good exercise for us because this virus attacks your lungs first and then it attacks other parts of your body. We also want to breathe in good messaging, right? Like peace and serenity and goodness and kindness, right? And consideration. those kinds of things that we want in this world where it had gotten very dark. Kindness, goodness. Those are what things that we're breathing in. And when we breathe out, we're going to be breathing out negative energy, right? Carbon dioxide, but also worry, fear, anxiety, those kinds of things. So sound of my voice, count to 3, and we're going to breathe in through our nose and out through our mouth. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in. And out through the mouth. That felt good. Breathe in. Out through the mouth. Very good. Breathe in. Out through the mouth. Breathe in. Out through the mouth. One last time, make it count, guys. Breathe in. Good one. And out. Ooh, that felt good, didn't it? Breathe in all that good oxygen and breathe out that carbon dioxide. All right, so now that we've done our breathing exercise, I want to, our conversation today is about depression. Specifically, how do you talk to your family and maybe even your friends about depression, understanding depression in your family? I'd like for you all in the chat boxes to share if you've ever experienced depression or had a family member that's experienced depression. Share with me if you can, share with the crew. You all know our crew stands for Connecting Relationships for Epic Wins. So during this 8 weeks of quarantine, have you even had a bout of depression? I'll be honest with you. Let's be transparent. We believe in truth, trust, and transparency leads to transformational breakthroughs. I'm still practicing, right? I'm still seeing clients every single day. I usually start my clinical day at 12 o'clock. I don't end until about 9 o'clock at night. Now, tonight I end a little bit earlier because I go into quarantine, the Corona Chronicles edition with my good friend Charlie Lewis, and we're specifically going to be talking about grief and loss. So if you are interested in that conversation, tune in to Charlie Lewis's his Facebook page. We're going to have an hour-long great conversation about grief and loss, and there's depression as a part of that, right? So if you've ever experienced it yourself, if during these quarantine talks and this quarantine that we've been in, if you had a bout of depression, even if it's mild depression, let us know, because it's very, very serious and we can do some things to help ourselves. Too often, though, what happens is we tend to not be able to talk to anybody about it. This is why we're having quarantine talks. Morgan and I decided several months ago, what could we do? What could we do to help in this scenario? So what's your story, right? We created these quarantine talks to hear your story so that we could create a safe environment. That's why we call it the Courageous Conversations Connect space, a safe environment where we could share our stories, where we could talk about what we've been through, where we could talk about what things can help us to grow through it, so that when we get out of here, right, when we really are able to not socially distance anymore and be, not quarantine anymore, that we will be better for this. We will be in a world that is kinder and richer in care and consideration, but we also will be mentally well. This is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so really, I said yesterday, mental health awareness need not be for 1 month. It needs to be all year round, because we don't separate our minds from our bodies and our spirits, right? So Megan says, I was diagnosed with depression in 2013. I haven't had a major bout, but I notice sometimes that my mood will be blah. But it never lasts longer than a few hours. I'm happy with my mental health regimen has been good to me. Excellent. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much, Megan, for sharing that, because I feel like sometimes when one person shares, then other people are willing to share. And the thing I thought is really important
is that we have to stand in solidarity. I've yet to meet a person, by the way, that hasn't experienced some bout with depression, whether it be mild depression, whether it be major depression, whether it be severe depression or moderate depression. We've all experienced it at some point in time. And like I said, the conversation tonight that I'm going to have about grief and loss brings on sometimes depression. Megan also says, but yeah, my family doesn't understand it, even though most of them do, right? So that's why, and thank you for that too, Megan, that's why we are having this conversation, because sometimes family members don't understand it, right? What's your story? Have you ever felt alone in your depression? Have you ever felt like your family members don't quite understand? Or here's the real deal, that there's a difference between your physical illness and your mental illness, or physical issues that you might have. So if you break your arm and you go to the doctor, they'll give you a cast, and people may, try to be a little bit more attentive to you because they feel like you're sick, or even people that actually have come down with this corona virus, right? You can see the manifestations, not for those that are asymptomatic, but for those who actually do have symptoms. Other people will be attentive to them. But when you have things like depression that you can't always see, then people are not as attentive because it's more obscure. It's not easily understood. And when you try to explain it to family members, they quite frankly want you just to get over it, but it's not as easy as that. Tom says, Morgan, I'm doing my exercises for my back and listening. Tell Dr. RG her voice is also cathartic and relaxing. Well, thank you, Tom. I appreciate that. I don't do this work without my own prayer, believe it or not. Like, I'm prayerful every day that Morgan and I use this platform to help and to not harm. We believe that we always ask the question, are we helping to harm or healing the hurt? And so we want to use this platform and even our voices to elevate people with regards to these necessary conversations. Quite frankly, these courageous conversations, right? And so the story about depression and how it impacts our families is vast. And there's some things I believe that we need to really, really pay attention to when it comes to depression. It is not something that should be taken lightly. It can lead to mild depression, can lead to more moderate and then severe depression. And it also can lead to harm. As I talked about last week, it really pricked my heart and really moved me to tears when I heard the story of Dr. Lauren Bren, who was an ER doctor that ended up committing suicide after she had come down with COVID-19 and then went back way too soon. How many of you all know that when you're experiencing depression, you need to be doing some things to help yourself, because it's just, you shouldn't be going back to work too soon. You should find a confidant. You should be perhaps finding somebody that a mental health professional that can help you through this. And it may require medication, absolutely, along with a spiritual advisor or a confidant, someone that can help you through this with prayer and meditation. Nicole, Mama Scope says, why is it acceptable to call in sick for work, but not for mental health day? That's a good question, right? And I actually had a client that said she never understood why she could have a medical health day. Like, she could call in sick, just like you're saying, Mama Scopes, and not be able to call in for a mental health day. Mind, body, and spirit is all connected. And we do. Like, actually, Sunday was my mental health day, where I just absolutely did nothing but relax the whole day. I attended to my mental health. Morgan and I attended to our relational health, which is extremely important in times like this. And I just don't think that we've given enough credit and enough attention and enough resources to our mental health and well-being. And so we before COVID-19, the world was on, fleek. Everybody was moving to an elevated degree, and we basically didn't give ourselves enough attention. Karen says people usually say, pray it away. Yeah, people do. They say pray it away. And it's more than that. It's more than praying it away. It requires prayer. It requires attentiveness in terms of maybe a mental health therapist. It requires you to do the necessary things for yourself. It requires a whole lot of things. Morgan, you said there's someone else? The next, Tanya? You didn't highlight it, so I'm not sure. Okay, Karen says Christian people, no. Tanya says, I have dealt with depression and not being able to express myself to APO. Excuse me. I am like a sponge, and with this pandemic, my heart hurts for others. Your chats, books have helped me with being mentally stronger. Oh, thank you so much, Tanya. I appreciate it. I do think that the book is really helpful. The Courageous Conversations Connect book. I hope that these chats are helpful. And I do think that expressing how we're feeling, this is why every single client I have them journaling, because we have to externalize what's going on inside. Otherwise, we cannot do this work, and we can't be available to other people if we're not mentally well ourselves. So depression is real. It can be hurtful to ourselves and possibly others as well. So we're going to keep this conversation going. Please think about and share in the chat if you've had an experience with depression yourself or others. And what did you do if your family members didn't understand your depression, or if you've been a family member that didn't understand someone else's depression? What did you do? Share it with the chat. We're going to take a quick break from our sponsors and we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Growing a business can be overwhelming. However, it doesn't have to be difficult. With the right resources, task becomes easier and the rewards are great. EasyMake Systems makes online marketing and business management less confusing and more affordable. We've placed all the necessary components to make your job easier. Our EasyMake website builder gives you the ability to create stunning websites or landing pages. Utilize our EasyMake Social to stay current with social media and our EasyMake Mail to drive more engagement through emails. How about creating 24/7 customer service with our EasyMake bots to be there whenever your customer needs to reach you? And more importantly, you can access all of our software on an easy-to-use dashboard that gives easy access from one location. EasyMake Systems is your single source solution.
So thank you. This is Dr. RG, and we're back in our Courageous Conversations Connect space where we're having quarantine talks, and we're talking about depression, and we're also talking about grief and loss, because they're connected, right? And the loss that we've experienced, the grief that we've experienced. We have people on our IG platform, and thank you for hanging in and staying with us. Jenny commented that she had just lost 2 family members to COVID-19. So our hearts and our prayers go out to Jenny. What's your story? And our hearts and prayers go out to anyone who's lost a loved one due to COVID-19 or due to any other reason. There's a particular type of grief called cumulative grief, right? And what that really is that we have multiple forms of grief based on multiple losses, whether it be loss of many family members at the same time, or loss of a loved one, and then loss of a job, or loss of resources, or loss of our identity. It's cumulative grief. And it really impacts us in ways that sometimes we don't even know. And depression can sneak up on us, which is why we're talking about it. I really want us to pay attention to it. Brandon Allen, who's my cousin, says, hey cousin, yes, when I was diagnosed with cancer in 2011, I dealt with depression in the beginning, especially when I was alone and for a long period of time. Thank you for sharing that. I do remember that. And I praise God that you were able to be healed from the cancer and that you're doing extremely well right now. But those kinds of experiences, when it just blindsides us, right? We just don't see it coming. Just like COVID-19. I think many of us were blindsided. We didn't see this coming. And now we're in the midst of it. We're experiencing a lot of different kinds of losses that is contributing to our depression. And I want all of us to level up our awareness. This is Mental Health Awareness Month. So we need to be aware on a daily basis of how we're experiencing our emotional state, how we're experiencing our mental wellness or mental health state. As my good friend Shirley Rouse says, sometimes we got to get a checkup from the neck up. That means that how are we processing information in a way that's helpful? And if we're feeling blue, if we're feeling depressed, We need to pay attention to that. So I'm going to give you some signs to look for if this is you or if this is your family member. Judy says, having gone through depression times twice since 1999, 2 points is still swept under the closet, and people say, can't you just snap out of it? People say, so yes, absolutely right. Sometimes we sweep it under the in the closet, put it in the closet, sweep it under the rug. Sometimes we want people to just snap out of it, just get over it, because we just want you back to the way you were. Isn't that kind of true for a lot of things? Don't we just want to get back to the way life used to be, when we were able to go out, when we didn't have to social distance, when we weren't quarantined? The truth is, I said early on that sometimes part of the healing is in the acceptance, right? Whatever your state is, sometimes we have to accept that people can't just snap out of depression. They have to grow through it. They have to work through it. They have to process it. They may need help, and it is okay. I remember my pastor preached a sermon many years ago, and I love this sermon. Pastor Alan E. Waller at Enon Tabernacle Baptist Church. The title of the sermon was, "It's Okay to Ask for Help." It's okay. Like, I do think that we had gotten to a place in our society where we had become extremely individualistic, where we weren't asking people for help, when we're feeling like we were in these little silos. You know, years ago, they lived in communities where they had front porches and everybody was communal. Everyone was hanging out. Do you remember when if you got in trouble, that your neighbor was chastised you, or if you were at church or something, and then they shared that information with your parent or your mom, because dads might have been outside of the house working, moms were inside, very traditional households. And then you got into trouble by your mother, right? And then when your dad came home, you got into at least 3 times you got some kind of discipline for one infraction. That's because we were communal. We hung out together. These days, we're sort of separate and we judge each other. We want people to just get over whatever they're going through. Depression doesn't act like that. It sometimes comes in waves. It can hit you in places and spaces that you're not aware of. Cynthia says depression is definitely a constant battle, right? Think about this from the perspective of that we are in a battle. We're really in a war right now. It would be unusual for me as a mental health professional to not be working with people around their mental health and, quite frankly, their depression. I would expect some people to be depressed. Now, here's the thing. You don't have to stay there. You can, as my pastor said, ask for help. There is help available. There are mental health professionals that are doing teletherapy all over this country. You can tap into those resources and talk to someone objective about what you're going through so that you don't have to suffer in silence. And by the way, just like COVID has impacted many Black and brown people in hard-hit communities, so does mental health hit us very, very hard. And we are the ones oftentimes that don't believe that the resources are available, don't have access to those resources, don't ask for help, and sometimes have a stigma that's attached to mental health and well-being so that we don't get what we need. Senator Vincent Hughes has done this work. I've done it with him alongside for many, many years in terms of breaking the silence and attacking the stigma so that we get the help that we need. Tanya says, I found a dear friend to chat with, and it allowed me to feel better. BJ has been there since the beginning of the pandemic. Thank God for girlfriends. Absolutely. BJ is a wonderful friend. I praise God that she's introduced you to me as well, and that you all come on a regular basis to this conversation. You are a blessing. I appreciate all of your transparency, because that is what it requires. It requires us to, double down on saying that we're really all in this together, and that the way in which we're going to grow through this is together. This is really about our behavior in terms of what we do physically to stay safe and inside and quarantine ourselves. But also it requires that we help each other mentally, that we don't move to a place where this is all about you or all about I want you all to think about these
specific symptoms of depression. There's a couple of things that may help you to identify if you're not sure if you're depressed. Sometimes there's a feeling of helplessness or hopelessness. There's a loss of interest in activities. That can be a sign or symptom. Loss of appetite or weight changes. Sleep changes also can be a sign of possible depression. Anger and irritability. So if you find yourself or your loved one being more angry or upset or snapping, a loss of energy, just kind of feeling lethargic, maybe reckless, like you're just going to go out there just because you want to, because you've been quarantined or you've followed the rules, and now you're acting in ways that are not helpful, being a little bit more reckless. And also think about these last two. Concentration problems. If you find yourself having difficulty concentrating, or you're having like these unexplained sort of aches and pains, those things can be contributors of depression. That's not an exhaustive list. There are other things, but if those things are part of your story or somebody else's story, I'm encouraging you to talk about that to someone. Mark?
Yeah, so just want to show some IG, some love here. Got a few comments on IG. Let's see here.
So IG. Hi, IG family. What's
So Jenny Pauline 85 says, as an essential worker on the front line, I found that yoga, meditation, and music uplifts my spirits. I can't wait for my healing kit from Shirley Rao. That's what she says. Right? Then Allison says, yes, people are suffering from quarantine fatigue on the strength. All right. I guess I read it right. Freedom Products. I guess that's Tom or Freedom. I'm not sure which one it is, but many are depressed.
Speak louder. So
I said, so I'm not sure if it's Tom or Freedom or Freedom Production. It said many are depressed and think they're just fatigued. Freedom also said that if you're using deflection to cope, it can be deceiving to friends and family. Okay. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, good. So Jenny specifically talked about mindfulness and meditation, and that helps her in music. And remember the 5 M's, guys, right? I say that just so that you all can remember it for yourself. When you're getting up, you're doing your mindfulness, and then you do your meditation. Mindfulness is staying in the present, not too far in the past, not too far in the future, but right here and now. What can you do for yourself now? Meditation, sort of helping to recenter yourself, recalibrate, reset your mindset, do some visual imagery about where it is that you want to be and how it is that you want to use yourself in a healthy way. Movement, you got to move your body so you can move those chemicals around and help yourself to enjoy those good hormones like the oxytocin and the dopamine and the serotonin, and then meaningful engagement. That's what we're doing now, having that meaningful engagement. And that someone said, music can be healing. And then Freedom said in IG that, a lot of times we don't really fully understand. And Freedom is a playwright, amazing playwright. And Morgan and I were part of the executive team for her play Breakthrough. We were executive producers for her team, her play Breakthrough. That was all about mental health. It was about family dynamic. There was a lot of twists and turns, but the ultimate theme was, how do you talk about this in a way that helps us to grow through it and not stay stuck in it? And so Morgan and I thank God for Freedom Productions and for Tom and Freedom, who have done a phenomenal job over the years of bringing the art that in some ways imitates life, if you will. So we thank God for them as well. I want to point your attention to a couple of other things. For example, I don't want to leave this out. If you have someone that is not doing well, there is a suicide hotline, 1-800-273-8255. That's the suicide hotline. Someone will pick up and walk you through the steps to keep you safe. If you need to text because you're feeling anxious or depressed, because you're not in school, or quite frankly, you're missing out, you feel on the things that these milestones. I work with a lot of young people every single day. 1-800-273-8255. That's the suicide prevention, National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. 1-800-273-8255. And then there's also a mental health text line. So 24/7, there's support. All you have to do, they're there for everything from anxiety, depression to suicide.
is you text HOME, HOME, to 741-741. So if you text HOME, HOME, to 741-741, that is a text line to help deal with the anxiety, depression, being home from school, those kinds of things. So there's resources available to us, and I want to make sure that we utilize them. I also want you all to know that persons like myself, and there's other mental health professionals out there in various areas. In New York, there's Sonia Davey. She's a good friend of mine. She does a lot of clinical work in teletherapy. There's Dr. Tina Scott that's doing a lot of teletherapy. There's my mentee, Ty McCoy, that's doing a lot of teletherapy. So we're out there doing this work. So if you're interested in doing therapy or working with a mental health professional, we're available. Reach out at 215-789-6999. That's 215-789-6999. Marcia says, I have family members who complain about having anxiety. Is this also a sign of depression? That is a good question. And the answer is yes and no, right? Anxiety does not have to be a sign of depression, but it can be, right? They can go together, but there are times when people are just anxious and because of what's going on in their lives, and that anxiety is related to their fear. It's related to their worry of the unknown. It's maybe related to their uncertainty. It may be related to what's going to happen in the future, and they don't have control of it. And so that lack of control can contribute to anxiety. I still would point you to some of those signs and symptoms that we talked about a little bit earlier. Change in appetite, change in sleep, change in attitude, certainly loss of interest in activities, if you will. And if you detect that a person is actually starting to maybe give away things or wanting to have conversations that seem strange in nature, a little bit different than their normal conversation, where they've gone from being completely active, then they've not been able to make the shift to being in this new norm. Remember, we talked a little bit earlier in these quarantine talks about you had to start with acceptance and then move to adjusting your mindset. And once you did that, you had to begin to adapt to the new norm, so that you came up with other innovative ways to be in that space, even in quarantine. And then that shifted you to a place of appreciation for how far you've come. If you look back 2 months ago, where have you come? And do you appreciate that? And has that created a new attitude for you? If people are not able to go through that process, those are the 5 A's, if you will, then sometimes you can look at them and say, or have a conversation and say, are you stuck? Are you paralyzed because you're focusing so much on what you were or what life you did have, that you're not able to really experience what you do have, what blessings really have come about with regards to this new norm that we've created. There's some people that are completely resistive. Pay attention to the resistance. Whenever there's resistance, it usually is that's a space where a person hasn't fully accepted where they're at. So they're resisting this new world that we're in, if you will. And then also sometimes the person is focusing on all the losses, right? As opposed to the gains. And when we get caught up in the losses, I don't have the identity. I don't have the life that I used to have. Maybe I don't have as much money as I used to have. Then it doesn't give you an opportunity to think about, well, what am I gaining? Am I able to sit still? And am I able to have the conversations that I once had I didn't have with my family when I was so busy? Am I able to learn new things about myself and about other people, or tap into, as we talked about yesterday, tap into these new and innovative ways of being that we perhaps didn't? Are you able to just sit down and have a meal with yourself or with your family that you weren't able to do before because everybody was busy running so much? Those are things that we need to explore. We call it taking a self-inventory of where you're at. And if you feel that, okay, I'm not in a good space. I'm engaging in some compulsive behaviors. Either I'm isolating more, I'm isolating more. I've got low energy. I perhaps am looking for vices like drinking too much, some other addictions where I'm looking to escape my reality. Those are signs
Those are signs that we're not doing well. And if we have family members, quite frankly, that either we feel are in trouble, one thing that we can do is get them do your own research, get them the resources and provide them those resources. You might not be able to force them to participate in the resources, but you can give it to them and say, listen, I'm noticing some changes and I'm really concerned. And I've done some research, and here are some resources that might be helpful to you in terms of a therapist or a spiritual advisor, or maybe even some podcasts or some talks that you can lead them to in order for them to listen. And maybe that will be helpful to them in terms of doing the necessary work to help them through this period of time. By the way, for you all that have ever experienced depression, you know that it comes in waves. You also know that there's sometimes no rhyme or reason. It can blindside you, but you also know that you can grow through it. It just takes time. And one thing that is very helpful that I think that somebody said in our crew is that having someone that believes you, having someone that hears you, having someone that listens to you, having someone that just gives you the ministry of presence, that they're not trying to get you better quickly or have you get over it. They're not trying to minimize what you're experiencing. They're just willing to say, I'm here. I'll be your person. I'll be here for you whenever you want to talk or process. And, for those of you that are spiritual, use your spiritual resources. If you're like me, I turn to God, I turn to scripture, I turn to prayer, I journal, I do the things that are helpful to help me to move to a healthier and more calm space if my anxiety has gotten elevated. Or if I feel like I'm feeling a little depressed. Of course, I talk to my husband about it often if I'm not feeling so good or if I'm having a bad day. If you have someone that you can talk it out, as I've said before yesterday, talking it out helps you not to act it out or helps you not to act it in. And if you have family members that just don't get it, right? You're living with them or that you're engaging with them and they just don't fully understand, I'd encourage you to step out of that space where you're having an unrealistic expectation that they will. Great down the line if they do get it, but pivot to someone who can get it. Sometimes what happens is, and I said this in a therapy session last night, that there are two things that get us tripped up. Sometimes we want more for people than they want for themselves. And so we spend a lot of time and energy trying to get people to get it and do differently and act differently. And we want to rescue them. Some of us have a rescuer mentality and it can wear us down, right? And then the other thing is that sometimes we want people to be attentive to us or give us something that they're just not equipped to give us. They're not equipped to love us or be available to us or attend to us in the ways that we need. So we have to pivot and find our person that might not be, it might be the very person that you least expected. Like Tanya was talking about BJ and that friendship that they have. It may be someone different, right? And you're wanting it to be the person that raised you, a parent. We're about to go into Mother's Day. Maybe it's a parent, a mother that can't be there for you in the way that you want. But I guarantee you there's someone out there. There's someone that can be your person. You just have to find them. Sometimes you have to pray for God to lead you, have a spirit of discernment to the person that is willing and able. That is really key. Are they willing? Some people are willing, but they're not able, right? Some people are able and they're not willing. Some people you find the sweet spot and they're both willing and able to be your person. Or maybe if you're so lucky or so blessed, you may have several people that you can go to, that you can process how you're feeling. And then tap into how you're feeling when you're able to talk differently, when you're able to start feeling different. If you're feeling a little bit lighter than you did prior to, tell me if you're feeling lighter that you're actually having these conversations in the quarantine talk. That's the purpose of them. It's for us to start out our day in a healthy place, even when we're talking about a conversation as deep as depression. The hope is that we can create this community of people, our crew, connecting relationships for epic wins that helps us to feel better, helps us to feel like there's some folk out there that really care about me, because we do, right? People don't care sometimes how much you know.
they care how much you, or how is it? People don't care how much you know, they know until they know how much you care. And so caring is important. And that's why we created this platform. Deborah says, yes, I'm dealing with my daughter in this way. Awesome. I'm not sure. I mean, I said a lot of things. So perhaps either you might be depressed or your daughter is depressed, or a little bit of both, right? Sometimes you're having people in the same community or in the same household that are experiencing some depression. And so you might have to go outside of your household in order to get the support that you need. Karen said, I struggle with being vulnerable with people. Then they hold me in that vulnerable place or space months or years later. They reference what I was vulnerable about as a negative years later, not recognizing that I've grown past that point takes away the trust with that person. Gotcha. I'm not sure. And thank you for that excuse me. Thank you for that transparent poignant message, Karen, that a lot of times we struggle with. If we share a point of vulnerability, we're depressed, whatever our thoughts are, stinking thinking, people may always keep us in that space. They may not be willing to look at us from a point of growth. And that's sometimes a difficult point of reference, right? That we don't fully always understand that, you know, we're all in this evolutionary process where we're supposed to be growing together. But I will say that that's worthy of a courageous conversation to say, listen, you know, I've confided in you, and my expectation is that you won't hold these points of reference where I'm either depressed or not feeling well against me down the line and act as if I haven't grown through that period of time. Nobody wants to be held accountable for everything that they've done in the past or for times when they've been hurting in the past. Nobody wants to feel like the people that they've entrusted with their dark spaces, that those people will not hold it in confidence. That's one, not share it with others, but also use it against them. So use the spirit of discernment to find the right persons to help you to heal and not hurt you. We're in the space having, with our crew, connecting relationships for epic wins. And we're having a conversation about depression. We're going to take a quick break for our sponsors. We'll be right back. So stay with us. We're back, and I'm Dr. RG. This is Courageous Conversations Connect space where we're having a quarantine talks. Thank you for hanging with me. Y'all give me energy. I mean, I came in with a little low energy. I felt like I was a little tired, and now I feel inspired. You all know I still have these allergies, so sometimes my voice gets a little raspy. But this has been a great conversation. I hope it's been helpful for all of you. Thank you, IG family, for hanging with us, for sharing. One of our IG family members said that they lost their mom last year. I know that Mother's Day is coming up for many of us. You all know that my mother transitioned about 5 years ago. The day after Thanksgiving, November 28, 2014. And so Mother's Day is always a very interesting process for me of honoring this amazing woman and simultaneously missing her terribly. So we're going to talk about that too this week. But thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being courageous. Thank you for being transparent. And you all know that this is going to help other people, right? So please share so that other people, not necessarily in real time, can experience this conversation. And so hopefully it's healing for many of us. And we're going to be on the the Corona Chronicles edition with Charlie Lewis tonight at 8 o'clock. So go on to his Facebook page. We're going to be talking specifically about grief and loss. And if you've been on those Tuesday nights with me and Charlie, with Charlie and I, you know, we pump it up and we have a good conversation, but a substantive conversation. So join us tonight at 8 o'clock. Don't forget to, if you've got young people that want to have a prom experience, we'll post the information for Candy Manning. And also, if you have essential moms who are out there doing the work, consider sending in a request or a 200-word quick essay on why you think that they are deserving of a beautiful gift from the Philadelphia Diamond Company. All right, so that's all we got for now. We will see you tomorrow for our quarantine talks at 10 o'clock. Listen, if no one else told you today, we love you. Morgan and I love you. There's nothing you can do about it. Have a beautiful day on purpose from our hearts to yours.